So I'm just going to be commentating over me practicing pillar clip for a few minutes while trying to show off some common mistakes and come with some tips. So first of all, you need to know that the reason why you clip is because you're in the specific spot behind the pillar and you equip iron bits while holding a direction on the control stick. It is possible to clip by just mashing A to swim up and being in this really precise spot and just go straight up and through, but it is an old school strat that is very hard to pull off consistently. So instead we have the float up method, which is calling midna when you're just about to hit this point beyond the pillar, and if you hit it like with this timing, you need to wait until Link does the float up. If you press it a bit later, then you might just end up in this spot right here, just as the text boxes are appearing. And you can buffer this with the item wheel if you want to. I'll be showing some clips of that later. It didn't really help me, or it didn't really make it easier or harder for me personally, but I think it's just personal preference, so if you feel more consistent doing it, then by all means go for it. The camera angle you get when you call midna is not random, but it is hard to control. So, because when you call midna, the camera sort of does like a turn on its own as a cinematic effect kind of thing. And if you already had a bad camera, like really close to the wall, then it may go 180, so you can barely see a Link in the wall and you can just barely make out what you're looking at. And it's still possible to clip this way, it's just harder. And if it happens, you can, after closing the final text box, you can hit L to center the camera behind Link, and then hold control stick towards the wall and equip iron bits to clip through. And right here, if you don't see where you're going, it's easy to actually go back in bounds, especially if you had a bad camera during the clip. So I think I'll be showing off shortly, soon I'll be showing off the claw method for this the C-stick. So you don't need to, if you know where the loading zone is, you can just hold towards the loading zone, but it is nice to have a good camera right away. So what I've been doing lately is to buffer C-stick left as I'm holding control stick up to immediately get a good camera. Like right here in this clip, I did a flick, and the flick is okay, but the claw is a little bit better, I think. I might do it in this clip if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. So if you look at my input display, I'm holding control stick up and right, sort of like towards the wall, and then the C-stick, I'm just holding it left. And as soon as I clip, I'll have a good camera angle, then I'll just stop using C-stick. I'll return it to neutral. So again, right here. As soon as I get a good camera, I can just release C-stick and the loading zone is right there in front of me. When it comes to tap swimming, you need to almost be on the same level as when you clip. You want to descend a little bit, but not much. It's also, I think right here I went for the item wheel method, but my D-pad didn't register. Not exactly sure. That's also one of the reasons why I don't like using the item wheel, because I don't like buffering with the item wheel, because I don't like the D-pad on the GameCube controller. But again, if you prefer buffering it, then I'm not going to stop you. Again, right here, or not again, but right here you can see that it looks like Link is going to fit in between the wall and the pillar, but the hitbox is a bit bigger than that, so you need to actually make sure that you sink a little bit below this point. It's not that intuitive, but just pretend that there's like a black box there blocking you, because that's pretty much what it is. And if you ever find yourself in this position, then that's you can't do anything about it. It's not savable. So that means you press Z too late. And I might press it. I might go too far left in this one. No, okay, it's fine. So here I'm showing off the item wheel buffer method. So I bring up the item wheel, and I want to pause when Link is right below the edge of the pillar. Like that was too late. I think that might have been the clip where it didn't register right away. So right there is really good. I almost pressed it too late there actually. The first pause could have worked too, but I had to wait longer for the float up. So the earlier you pause, the longer you have to wait for the float up, most likely. But it's not guaranteed. There's a lot of things that come into play with the float up, so the best thing you can do is just to practice it like this. Also, I didn't mention it earlier, but I'm obviously using infinite air cheat, and this is the proper way to practice this clip. So here we have the bad camera angle that you can get, and it's really hard to see when Link does the float up. Like here, I saw that he went left, so I knew it was in this situation, and it's nothing you can do if this happens to you. But you can float up properly, like we've seen before, with that bad camera angle. It's just after you close the text boxes you need to. You don't need to, but I highly recommend pressing target once to center the camera behind Link, and then go for the clip. So right there's a good example of the item wheel where it can be useful and it's not harder, but I just don't like the consistency of the D-pad. So yeah, that was a pretty early call, and because the call was so early, I got the bad camera angle. It's one of the reasons why it happens, usually. And again, the same thing where I was too far left. So it could have worked if I was a bit more right. But it's hard to save it when you get a bad camera angle like that. Not impossible, not impossible at all, but hard because you don't really see where you're going. And you only have one shot at this per time you sink down. And if you made it this far down, then you can't go back up. You don't have enough air, so you need to just game over. Also, I increased the gamma a little bit in this video, so it might look a bit weird, but that's only to make it easier for you guys to see some visual cues on the wall if you want to use some visual cues. This place is really dark, so I decided to do that. I don't really look. I like a specific black spot, but I did see that there were like 3 black spots on the wall, right at the point where you take off the iron boots. So you can use that if you want to. Maybe it's just one spot. So yeah, practice this with the infinite air meter cheat. Otherwise, this will be very tedious and very boring. If you don't have the option to practice this with cheat codes, then don't practice doing it setupless. Only do Dragon Maid setup, because game overing each time takes a long time, and it's just not going to be a pleasant experience at all. So get TPGC or Dragon Maid's Neo Gamma codes, enable infinite health, infinite air, and just keep grinding this for like 10 minutes, and make sure you have the save state, or save and load your position like I do in this clip a lot.
Okay, that's all the time I've got. I gotta get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS.